Okay, welcome to Black Man Speak. I'm your co-host J.R. Stewart.
And good evening, everyone. I'm your co-host Tommy Duncan.
Uh,
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
a big shout out to Liquid for providing our theme music for our show. I also want to give a shout out to those who watch our show. We're on the air every Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Central Time, and want to say thanks to our latest subscriber, Tom Bronze Bird, I believe is his nickname or her nickname. I'm assuming it's a guy.
All right, good deal. Well, hey, we'd like to thank our latest subscriber and looking forward to many, many more. So, Jimmy, let's start off today's topic. A couple of notes of interest until we get to our main subject tonight. Of course, today is St. Patrick's Day,
It is.
one of the most celebrated holidays probably across the world, man.
Well, I didn't celebrate it. I didn't even realize it was St. Patrick's Day till you mention it. Not that I'm opposed to it. I just one of those things I don't keep up with. So
I understand.
it's not on my radar. So today was just another work day. Brother trying to earn a living and not to be poor.
I understand. I understand. So there are probably a lot of folk. Well, I don't know if there are a lot of folks out now, for
Hmm.
obvious reasons. With well, maybe in certain states that have lifted the mask restrictions, but there's probably a smaller group of folks out there celebrating, drinking green beer and having a good time.
Now I am drinking green tea if that matters. But
I, I think they'll give you a pass. I mean, if it's not
okay.
green beer, maybe green tea will count since
So
you're
I
not
so I am
drinking green
drinking
beer.
green tea. So Tom, this is before we get into the discussion, I think we have one more item to take care of. Notable
Absolutely.
notable
Yeah, we
deaths.
absolutely. We had another well-known actor that has transitioned. For those of you out there who are moviegoers or even TV goers, for that matter, Yafet Koto just passed a couple of days ago at the rigid old age of 81 years old. I think what I most remember Yafet Koto for. He played a lot of cop roles when I was
Yes.
younger watching TV, and also one of my favorite movie series, the very first Alien. Yaphet Kotto played one of the folks who were in the ship that got attacked by the alien. And then, for those of you who are comedy fans, there's a movie that if you have not seen it, it's a little bit old, but it's a very good movie with Yaphet Kotto and Robert De Niro called Midnight Run. Very, very funny movie. Very
Okay.
funny movie.
So with that being said, Tom, let's jump into our discussion. Now, do you have your lightning shield up? Because I don't want you to get struck by lightning for what's getting ready to be said in our discussion. So the topic tonight is it possible that God is a woman? And I know that goes against every society, Eastern, Western, of religious, philosophical thought, discussion, conversation. So there are going to be some that are going to be quite upset by us even talking about it or entertaining the possibility. But I think it's worthy of a discussion.
Very thought provoking subject, very thought provoking topic.
Okay. So let's get in. Since I think I'm the one who kind of threw it out
Yes, you
there.
did.
Yes.
Yeah, Jimmy
It's the
actually
one. It's the month of the woman. So why should we should be
absolutely,
talking about this?
absolutely.
It's the month of the woman. So let's talk about whether if it's possible that God could be a woman. So one of the things that I'm going to use as my circumstantial evidence, and as I build this case here, um, is the fact of if you look at the Bible and you see where individuals who had a personal relationship with God. Let's start with Adam. Adam is in the garden. Everything is perfect. Everything is laid out for you, and you have a one-on-one relationship with God. And you would think, with that going on, that nothing would be able to come between Adam and God in that scenario. But who came between Adam and God, Tom? Eve, a woman.
Eve?
So, so when you look at it, to some degree, you can make an argument that Eve had just as much power when it came to the influencing of a man, the only man at that point, as God did. In fact, Eve had more because Eve was able to convince Adam to do what God told him not to do.
Well, Jimmy, I mean that brings up a very interesting angle on it, and I mean the question is it how possible is it that God is a woman? Now, of course, we know that God is not flesh, God is spirit, God created everything that lives. But when we talk about the attributes of God being masculine or feminine, and we talk about what is written in the Bible about the history of creation, it says that God created man, but he said God created them, man and woman. So, that delves into the topic of the attributes of God that is both masculine and feminine. But you do bring up a very intriguing question about, did Eve come between Adam and God?
Well, in the end, she had more influence, at that moment. And on top of that, if God was a man, God would have made Eve first. God would have made the opposite of himself first. But if God was a woman, it is logical that a female God would make a male human, a male species, individual, animal, creature first.
Why is that?
The opposites attract, Tom.
Mhm. But God made humankind for a specific purpose, not specific for his own pleasure.
Actually, not totally true. So,
Okay.
so God made mankind to
Mhm.
worship God.
Correct.
So there's
Correct.
some need
That,
there.
that was the mission and the purpose.
That was the mission and purpose. So there was some need to be loved, to be liked, to be worshipped, to be looked up to. Now, men have those attributes. We like to be looked up to and respected also. But as we discussed before, men are not so hung up on the love part of it, the emotions of it. We want the respect, we want to be feared, we want to be valued, we want to be respected, we want all those things. But women, for the most part, want to be loved. And and since there's a central theme throughout the Bible of loving God and some and the necessity and the putting weight on that, that sort of lends towards the argument that maybe just maybe, God be maybe more female than male in that respect.
Now, if we ask this question, why not God be both male and female? Because he did create man in his image. He created them, man and woman.
Well, see, Tom, that brings up another question. We could probably have a different show because I don't want to digress on a different topic. But I
Right.
think we have this all wrong when we look at God. We think God as a single entity, when
Mhm.
reality that life throughout, as we know it here on Earth, and maybe even throughout the universe, all stems around two parts. There's always something that has to be fertilized, an egg or seed, or something that has to be that starts off as the core, and something has to be added to it in order for life to spring out of that. So when the Bible says in Genesis, "Let us make man in our image," I don't think God was referring and talking with the angels who had no part in life whatsoever. They may manage the universe for God. They may oversee things. They may even destroy things and help shape and manipulate. But mankind can do that today. We can manipulate genes and DNA and RNA and TNA. We can edit our chromosomes, but we can't create life other than the way God has given us the ability, which is to fertilize a female egg. With that being said, it is possible that let us, and this is, I think, the mistake that we make when we read the Bible and try to interpret the meaning of the Bible, is that we don't pay attention to the audience. Who would God be talking to when He say, "Let us do this"? If if I'm talking to you and you don't have the ability to do any of the things that I can do, there is no us. There's just let me do this. I'm just telling you what I'm going to do. So that conversation would have flowed a little differently. It would have been like, "Hey, I think I'm going to create some people. I'm going to create a man and possibly a woman to keep him company. I'm going to do this. I'm just letting you guys know because you're going to have to manage this when I'm busy doing something else. I'm going to need you to keep an eye on my creation." But when you say let us do something, that implicitly implies two people who
Plural.
have the same ability.
Correct.
So we may be thinking of this as a single God, but there just may be a God and a woman who's involved in this process.
Well, what we do know is that God is ubiquitous. He is every place at the same time. He is inherent in all things. He is inherent in humankind, and He is inherent in everything that has ever been created.
But we're quite comfortable saying he, but are you quite as comfortable saying she?
Yes, because when you consider the attributes of God, they are both masculine and feminine.
Well, if you consider that maybe we worship two gods, that the attributes that we're talking about are from both. So let's go on to my next piece of evidence, Tom.
Because Jimmy, before you say that, one thing we have to consider
Uh huh.
is who wrote the Bible and what point of view the Bible was written. And therefore, when you consider how the language was shaped in the Bible, it was written by men who were in power and who had a specific purpose in creating the language that we see in the Bible today.
Right, and so a female god would not be that concerned about the language of the Bible as long as the theme of the Bible met her approval. And the theme of the Bible is to love me. So as long as that's a central theme, the female god, the woman god would care less about the particulars. The male god would be concerned about the particulars, but the female god wouldn't. Um, with that being said, Tom, we're gonna move on to my next piece of evidence here
Okay.
to consider the fallen angels, and
Mhm.
actually um, depending on, I mean, I know that the Hebrew word means fall, and the Greek word means to abandon or to give up. But so I think in our interpretation of these fallen, they may not have been fallen as much as they decide to just pack up and leave, which I think is more the case than fallen. So in Genesis 6, where it says the angels, the fallen angels, actually left and took up, married the daughters of man, um, and that somehow we interpret this to be a perverted act. And although it doesn't, the Greek word doesn't really mean perverse in the sense that how we term it in like sexual perversion, it really means a really bad, a negative. But I'm thinking that a male God would understand a male angel wanting female companionship. There's none up here to be had because we've already been told that there's no marriage in heaven. So if you're a male angel and you want to love someone, have children, have a family, and you can't have it where you are, then that just makes sense that you would abandon your post, give up your middle management of the universe, be in one with God, and go down there and take up shop with the daughters of man. Didn't say just sex now; it said marriage. So I'm assuming they did the right way, and that but the point is that a woman God who's jealous, who thinking of you as leaving all of this perfection to go down there and deal with that is a perverse act. But the male God wouldn't necessarily see it as a perverse act.
Why not?
It's natural. Okay, if God is both, if there's a male God and a female God, you have a partner, and
Mhm.
you have all these angels around here with no partners. They look at you and say, "Wait, where's my other half? Where's my spouse? Where's my loving person to come home to? I don't have one." So you know what? I'm going to resign my position. I'm going to go down there. I'm going to take up with a wife. You can take away all my powers and everything, but I'm going to go marry me an earthly woman and have what you have, and get a little piece of happiness also. Um, but my point is that for us to think that the fallen angels marrying the daughters of man was a perverse act, that came from the female God. That would not come from the male God, because the male God would understand.
Well, that's interesting. So what you're suggesting is that the angels gave up perfection to come down to earth and to live among flesh.
Just like Adam, Tom, and that's why God has to be both male and female, because only a woman. Okay, I lost your video feed, Tom. Are you
Okay.
there? Okay, there you
Yes, I
go.
am.
Okay,
Okay.
so only a female God would give woman that kind of power over man, which she still has today, and a lot of women just don't understand or recognize the power that they have. But they've always had this power over man. They just don't use it in a way that betters them all of the time.
Well, I think most women, based upon what I've seen, they do understand that the power that they have. I mean, not physical power in terms of strength, but the power of influence and how to use it.
Tom, I'm talking about the power to turn man away from God, kind of power. I don't
Yeah.
know if they understand how that they have that and how to use it today.
So, what would you suggest? And what is your thesis on that in terms of how to use it?
Well, we can do that for another show. Save that topic for another show. Um,
Okay.
you know, so, but I do have some thoughts on that. I'm
Okay.
not trying to duck the question. I'm just saying that's a more lengthy discussion than we have right now. And I don't want to do it injustice by just teasing on the topic. So, but when you look at Tom, the fact that men have gone to war over women, the
Most
things.
wars, but Jimmy, most of these wars are fought over power and access to
Well,
resources.
that's the man side of it. That is true, but a few of them have been fought over women. Um, Men do fight over women,
Yes, they do.
and yes, they
And
do.
women do, and women do fight over men.
Well, that's a mistake, and when the Bible says "Thou shalt not covet," and that's going to be another topic of discussion. I think women do themselves a disjustice when you covet the things that are behaviors of men. Do not seek to gather those and make that part of your life or your behavior, because the reality is you're shooting yourself in the foot. The more masculine you become, the less attractive you become to men. So I would say stay in your lane, and I know that's probably I'm gonna get somebody's gonna beat
Chauvinist.
me down.
Yeah,
Yes,
probably what they would say is a very chauvinist remark when you say stay in your lane.
caveman type thinking, and I'm used to that. But really, the things that make you a woman, the things that make you the prize, that give you the ability to help influence man, even to the point that you can turn him away from God, turn angels away from God. When you abandon those things, you are giving up the very essence of who you are. And men, nowhere in the Bible do men have that ability. And you don't hear about women having a relationship with God and being turned away from God for the love of a man. And then my last piece of evidence, Tom, I'm gonna,
Mhm.
since people are gonna accuse me of being too much in the Old Testament over in Genesis, we're gonna skip over to the New Testament. The only place in the Bible that talks about being cut off from God is over in the New Testament, where I think it's one of in Peter, um, where you run the risk of having your prayers not being heard by God, which means you're cut off. God no longer has your ears, no one listening to you or anything you have to say, or your concerns. Is that if you abuse the wife in your relationship? So it doesn't say if you abuse the man you get cut off, but it does say that you abuse the woman, and the Bible charged the man with what? Loving the woman in the right way, and if you do
Correct.
so, you
Correct.
will remove the polemical line straight, and that she will become a perfect creation for who? For you. So now that she becomes perfect in life for everybody, but she becomes perfect for you. So once again, that central theme of love, loving the female correctly, and running the risk of being cut off from God if you mistreat her, lets me know that once again, a woman had a great part to play in this role and structure of how things are supposed to go.
Absolutely.
Because men would have just thought of that on their own.
Yeah, women are smarter and more intuitive than men on average.
So those are my three pieces of evidence to go against the overwhelming wave of evidence that suggests that God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost are all men.
So the question would be this: how do you use this in a practical sense in everyday life? I mean, we can get theological and theoretical and all of this, but when you start talking about your day-to-day life and your relationships, whether that be with your spouse, whether that be with your family, or with other folks out in the world, that's where the rubber meets the road. And why is this important?
Well, it's important, Tom, because one, there are a couple of things here. If you look throughout nature, especially one of my favorite animal species is the emperor penguin down in Antarctica. They're not the only one, of course, there are other species, but these penguins, they mate for life. And there are other species that do the same, although for the most part we have choices. But mankind is not meant to go through life single. You are meant to go
Correct.
through life paired up with somebody. Your function is to reproduce yourself. There's a reason why men have a sperm count of several hundred million, and in fact, you dip below 100 million, and it's considered something wrong with you. But women produce one egg a month,
Correct.
so there is some pressure there. One, that you're given more than enough to fertilize one egg. If it was really just about fertilizing one egg, then you would only need one sperm to do that. But the fact that you're given so much lends to believe that one, there's a risk of you dying, and two, that you have all that extra because there was a belief or a need for you to have it. Now I know that monogamous is kind of the word of the day, but it hadn't always been that way. This is a recent development that happened in the last 1,000 years. Before that, men had as many wives as they could afford, or they could fight somebody off to keep.
Yeah, I mean, historically speaking, you're correct, Jimmy. And if we're really practical about it, monogamy is not really the norm today. If you look at it from a biblical perspective, you have one wife, one spouse for your entire life, but that is truly never been the case on Earth and in humankind, or very very rare, and especially now.
Right. And so, Tom, so the practical application of this is to take the wisdom of the Bible, whether you are Christian or not, whether you take a literal interpretation of the Bible, or you take it for you extract the meaning and the wisdom from the Bible, but use it as a guide to help guide your life. And the point of all of this is that men were made a certain way, given certain behaviors and characteristics for a reason. Women the same, and that when we cross those lines, the perversion of life comes when you cross those lines. I still, I'm still offended by certain things I see from men when I can't tell a difference between some of the things they do. I can't tell a difference between that of a man or a woman. And the same thing
For
with
in,
women.
for instance, what do you mean?
Um, like I'm not a big fan of men wearing earrings, purses,
No.
dresses. Want to put on
Well, most men don't wear
makeup,
purses. Most men don't go around with purses in them. Most men
they
don't
call
wear
them the man
dresses.
pouch now, Tom. It's still the same thing. It's a purse. You can call it whatever you want to. Men wear.
Most men don't have pouches. Now you do have, significantly more men who wear earrings from a fashion point of view, but most men don't have. Most men run around with a wallet.
Now it took me a while, but I can almost accept the single earring. But the
Mm.
guys with the two earrings, yeah, I think now you've crossed over the line into the to that realm of womanhood at that point. But there are other things too. Just the behavior and the attributes of. I see a lot of young guys coming up where they want to be the center of attention. They want to be put on the pedestal. They want to be loved and worshipped like the woman is now. And there are far too many women who are taking on the male roles and behaviors where they're okay with taking a more dominant role, being the breadwinners for their family, taking the lead to be the ultimate leader of their households. And so you see this role reversal that's happening. And to me, that is a perverse evolution of life.
Well, Jimmy, what you have to consider in a lot of cases, when women, if they don't have a spouse or a man in their life, I mean, they are in a position where they have to be the breadwinner of their families. Or in the case that we've talked about on several occasions in the United States of America, where the black man within our community is attacked, whether that is through the judicial system, in which we are the highest incarcerated group of any demographic, any color in the country, or you consider other factors such as homicide, etc., that leaves a lot of our households bereft of men. Then women are put into a position where they have to take responsibility and take care of their children and or their families, because
Well,
in some cases they don't have other options.
I mean, being raised by women is, we know that happens. I mean, it's
Of
happened in
course.
my life. My mother, had to raise five children a lot of times by herself. But the
There you
point
go.
is,
There you go.
is that you don't allow that.
That's not a perversion per se, but that's what you call survival.
Well, the perversion comes, Thomas, when you can't step back from it. There's a time and a place for everything, and if you have to wear two hats for a while, you just have to wear two hats. But when the opportunity presents itself for you to wear a single hat again, that's the perversion comes when you can't do that. When you continue, you hear men complain about having a battle in their own household for leadership. You can't tell who's in charge there. Well, if you have a man who wants to lead his household, it's going to be very difficult for him to be in a household with a woman who wants the same thing. At some point, somebody's going to back down and surrender to the other. And if for those men that find themselves in those situations, a lot of times they just leave the household. It's not that they don't love the person, not that they want to abandon their kids sometimes. Sometimes it's just that the behavior of both, that there's too much male behavior from both in a household, and that's not good. That there has to be some balance between manly behavior and female behavior to balance things out. And if you don't have that, too much of either one, it can go the other way. If you got a man who's too feminine and a woman who's really, then a household composed of those two characters will be just as toxic and perverse as the opposite.
I understand. And for what it's worth, Jimmy, I mean, this is probably a topic for another show, but you also have to talk about the influencing factors that shape the behavior of women such that they are influenced or programmed to take on more masculine traits and virtues, and are, in essence, influenced to fight for power within the household. I don't believe that that just happens by nature and naturally. I believe that is shaped and that is influenced over several years through mass media, through influence of folks who were their mentors and or caretakers.
Well, Tom, and that's why the topic of tonight is important, because women need to understand that um, there's a very good chance that who or what we worship is both a male and a female. So do not feel that men are dominating the world and that you are powerless. Because that is not the case. You have a great deal of power. You just need to recognize the power that you have and how to use it in a way that was meant to be used for the betterment of both you and your spouse, and certainly if you have children, and for your family. Uh,
So, are we talking to men or women when we're saying this?
I think we're talking to women to say, because it's the month of the woman, so we're celebrating
Right.
women,
Mhm.
that once again, that you don't have to feel as though you're being left out of the equation. Don't feel because the Bible reference is more male dominated than anything else, which it is, and we're not going to deny that. But
It is patriarchal by nature in the way that it was written because of who it was written by.
but keep in mind that the whole spirit of the Bible and a lot of the influences that it proclaimed and speaks of had to have been put there by a female God. So I think what we have is a situation where God is both male and female, and it may just be two individuals because very seldom do you have uh, things that exist in nature with both
So,
male and
Jimmy,
female is able to create life.
are you saying that God would influence a Bible that is written in an overtly patriarchal and possibly chauvinist, male chauvinist perspective?
I'm
That a
saying I'm
female
saying the
God,
male God would, yes.
or the male? Okay, you said given that God was a female, that she would have influenced the Bible this way.
I think we worship two gods really.
Mhm.
I think let us.
So, so what you're saying is you don't consider God to be a singular God with with masculine and feminine
That is correct.
virtue.
I think we
You are what you're suggesting is that there are two gods that complement each other.
yes. So I think the us is two gods. It's not me and the angels because the angels can't create life. So when I say let us do something, that implicitly implies that the other part that I'm talking to, the audience, the person I'm speaking to, has equal ability or our abilities together allow us to do this action. I will not be saying let us do something if I'm the only one that can do it. Because if that's the case, it's let me do it and you guys watch or you manage this once I'm done. So let us make man in our own image explicitly implies that God is speaking to someone who has the ability or to complement his ability, which would be a female God, and we do this together. The male God inspires the creation of the Bible. The female God, okay, you go play with your book and you go do that as long as you put this, and this in there.
Interesting. So, Jimmy, I know we only have a couple of minutes, if
We
that,
are we
before we have to
are
close out the show. So,
we're actually 1 minute over, so we can go ahead and wrap this up. Another fascinating discussion, and that's what we do here. So we do not shy away from the difficult topics. So, Tom, you're gonna go ahead and close it out with the quick prayer. Also, let's call on people to subscribe, like, and share as we try to grow our
absolutely.
channel. We're here every Wednesday, 9 p.m. Central Time. If you want to
Mhm.
join the conversation, the phone number is listed. People, you give us a call and join in the conversation if you like. So we do like the people who watch the show, but you don't have to sit on the sideline if you don't want to. You can actually give us your opinion. We love to hear from you.
Absolutely. And as we close, dear Lord and gracious Master, we come before you, Father, thanking you for blessing us to see another day. We ask that you would keep us focused on the things that you would have us to do. We ask that you would continue to protect us, guide us, and continue to order our steps in your words that you may be revealed through us. In your precious name we pray. Amen.
And mother, we come to you also. So, all right.
All right, folks. Everybody, have a good evening. Enjoy the rest of your St. Patrick's Day. Uh, don't have so much fun that you have to be picked up off the floor so you can
No,
join us next
we
week.
don't want to see that in the videos. And we're out.